as long as we have each other, anything is possible. The moment we enter our happy place. Join the 70th celebration at the happiest place on Earth.
Vicks VapoStick provides soothing, non-medicated Vicks vapors. Easy to apply for the whole family. Vicks VapoStick. And for on-the-go Vicks vapors, try Vicks Vapo Inhaler.
This program contains graphic violence and sexual situations. Viewer discretion is advised. A Colombian criminal finds inspiration from Hollywood mobsters.
He probably learned from the mafia movies. You have to have control. And if anybody challenges you, you have to kill them.
And quickly grows into one of the biggest and most infamous drug lords in history.
At one point, he was trafficking approximately 80% of the cocaine circulating in America.
Cocaine sales bring him untold amounts of wealth, and he spends it on luxuries such as extravagant estates, vehicles, and exotic animals.
He spent his money like a kid who won the lottery.
To maintain his position as the so-called king of cocaine, he goes to any means, including murder, kidnapping, bombings, even waging war against his own government.
When it came to crime, he had no compassion and he was brutal.
To the downtrodden, he shows a different side.
He had the feeling that he himself could be a messiah helping the poor, and that is why he claimed to be a sort of Robin Hood.
And an even softer one to his loved ones.
A human being that can be a doll in closed doors and a serial killer out. How can you be a nice person to your loved ones and then, commit crimes?
Meet Pablo Escobar, a common street hood from a small mountain town, until murder made him famous. The life and crimes of drug lord Pablo Escobar made headlines in both his native Colombia and across the world for well over a decade. For those who lived under the constant barrage of kidnappings, murders, and bombings, the news was chilling.
The sense of impotence and helplessness was huge. And the fact that, what is this guy made of? Why can't we get him? Why doesn't he stop?
During his criminal career, Escobar gave interviews to the press, attempting to shape a positive image of himself.
He, I think, played upon, in the media in particular, a kind of folk hero role.
Even after his death in 1993, Escobar's legacy continues to live on through soap operas, books, and television series such as Narcos.
Les voy a decir quién soy. Yo soy Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria.
Pablo Escobar has been played by a number of actors, including Benicio del Toro and Javier Bardem.
Pablo Escobar is a character much more complex than what is seen in the series and in the movies.
He was one of the biggest criminals and the most wanted fugitives in the whole world. How did he get to that point? In order to understand it, we have to look at the era in which he was born.
From 1948 to 1958, Colombia suffers through a vicious civil war known as La Violencia.
Violence had been like a central presence as I grew up in Colombia.
We're talking 1940s, when people their necks were cut, their tongues were taken out, and they would say, "What a nice tie you're wearing." That's how they killed.
It is during this time when Pablo Escobar is born in the small Colombian town of Rio Negro in 1949.
Pablo grew up in a kind of middle-class family, but it wasn't the kind of poor, up from the slums story that you often get with criminals. Being a criminal was, for Pablo, a choice.
By his teens, Pablo is already a high school dropout and opts for the high life instead of an education.
An avid doper, someone who I think basically started smoking dope in the morning and stayed stoned most of the time.
By his 20s, Escobar has become an active criminal, who makes his living through robbery and running scams.
Then it's known that he sold fake lottery tickets. It's known apparently that he sold fake high school diplomas.
When Pablo started to sell pot, he realized that maybe drugs could be his meal ticket, and his partner in crime was his cousin Gustavo.
Keep building that fortune, cousin.
I will. If I haven't made $1 million pesos by the time I'm 30, kill myself.
As he finds his niche in the criminal world, he also finds inspiration in a particular group of role models.
Escobar was fascinated by American criminals like Bonnie and Clyde and Al Capone. And he was a fan of the Godfather movies as well.
That he probably learned from the mafia movies. You have to have control. You have to be in charge. And if anybody challenges you, you have to kill them.
Pablo becomes more brazen with the crimes he commits on the streets of Medellin, Colombia.
There was just a tremendous amount of street violence, gang violence. So to survive in that atmosphere, you had to be willing and capable of being very ruthless.
Pablo Escobar and his cousin, Gustavo, were known to steal vehicles at gunpoint in broad daylight.
By 1973, Pablo and Gustavo are running a successful chop shop where stolen cars are broken down into parts and sold for cash. But an unexpected stranger soon knocks Escobar off his feet. Escobar becomes smitten with Victoria Henao, who is his junior by more than 10 years, and they begin a relationship. Pablo continues to profit off of hijacked cars, but the crime eventually lands him behind bars in 1974.
While he was in prison, Pablo met a man named Alberto the Godfather Prieto, who was a legendary smuggler. And before you knew it, the two men had struck up a friendship.
The trick is bribing the judges and the police, huh? Everyone has a price.
I'll keep that in mind.
I'm due to be released soon. When you get out, come see me. I have a job for you if you want it.
A job?
He became a partner of one of the big smugglers, the biggest smugglers in the region of Medellin, and that's how he got his criminal life really started big time.
Escobar and his cousin Gustavo begin escorting trucks of smuggled contraband throughout Colombia. While it begins with items such as TVs and stereos, it quickly becomes a gateway to a drug that's become popular in the United States: cocaine.
It was a sign of how sophisticated you were if you had cocaine. You went to a party, there was a bowl on the coffee table full of cocaine.
Colombia is a very mountainous and jungle-choked country, so it's difficult to travel, and you had also areas where cocaine could be manufactured and processed and packaged without any interference by authorities. Cocaine is a much more efficient product because it's relatively compact. You can ship a lot of it in a very small space, unlike marijuana, which is a bulky product. So, Pablo tapped into the enormous wealth of that industry.
Smuggling contraband is a serious offense, senor.
Perhaps I could make you an offer.
An offer?
Plata o plomo.
Come again?
You could take my silver. Or you could take my lead.
In other words, you could take his bribe, or you could die.
Gracias.
Vámonos.
There was a way to get away with crime. in Colombia in those days. The judges had prices, the policemen had prices.
Those who do not accept his offer and those who dare cross him soon learn that Pablo Escobar is not one to trifle with.
According to Pablo's son, an associate had double-crossed Pablo, and he decided to even the score. It would allegedly become his first murder, but it wouldn't be his last.
He grew into a very ultimately intimidating figure who used violence to a degree that many of the criminals in Colombia would not.
Pablo Escobar will go to any lengths, including murder, to become a criminal kingpin. He's claimed one victim, but his body count will soon grow into the thousands.
Hey guys, I've got AAA.
When you're a AAA member, you're covered in anyone's car.
You know what's all good? Zero heartburn. That's why I take Prilosec OTC. Just one pill a day blocks heartburn before it starts. Unlike my friend here popping antacids all day. Give me those. Prilosec OTC. One pill, zero heartburn. All good.
Wow, those are sweet.
Let's get a closer look. Ow! You all right?
I've never seen anything so beautiful.
I always forget about the glass.
Lease the new 2026 Camry for $299 a month for 36 months. Or a new Corolla for $199 a month for 24 months. Toyota, let's go places.
When we knew we were having our son, we were like, what do we use that's gonna keep him safe?
I recommend Tide Free and Gentle. It's free of dyes and perfumes.
His clothes are coming out cleaner than when I used to use competitor brands.
Both gentle and effective.
Tested, trusted, cleaner.
Ooh, stuffed up again?
So congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Just Sinex? Breathe. What is... Wow. Sinex? Breathe. Ah.
Your legend begins on the all-new Disney Destiny, now sailing from Fort Lauderdale.
This is Beth. Her antivirus software keeps interrupting her video call. With WebRoot, she'd have privacy protection, antivirus, and identity protection without the interruptions. Your digital life upgraded. That's WebRoot.
Majesty meets magic with Disney Cruise Line, sailing in Europe.
5:10 a.m. Drive an hour, cut for 10. Sunday, back in the timber. Just without the saw. Kuyu for the work between hunts.
In Colombia, Pablo Escobar has gone from petty thug to cocaine smuggler. In 1976, he establishes the Medellin cartel, which will soon grow into one of the most violent and formidable criminal organizations in the world. The popularity of cocaine has risen in the United States, and Escobar's Medellin cartel increases supply to meet the demand.
The Medellin cartel didn't just have Colombia. It infected certainly the state of Florida, and later other cities, Houston, Los Angeles, New York. So did they have a ripple effect? Yeah, I would call it more like a hurricane effect.
His true genius as a criminal was turning retail smuggling of cocaine into large-scale smuggling. That's how he made his fortune. That's how he built the criminal organization.
At one point, Pablo and his team were trafficking approximately 80% of the cocaine circulating in America.
Cocaine sales quickly make Pablo Escobar a wealthy man.
Pablo Escobar's cartel was making approximately $60 million a day in cocaine sales.
He was probably well on his way to becoming the richest man in the world.
But the Colombian drug lord has more than just money on his mind. In 1976, Pablo Escobar marries his much younger girlfriend, Victoria. In the late 70s, Escobar welcomes a son named Juan Pablo and constructs a lavish estate in the Colombian countryside known as Hacienda Nápoles.
Hacienda Nápoles was so huge that it could sleep 100 guests at a time. It also had 3 zoos, an airstrip, and a motocross track.
For Pablo Escobar, Hacienda Nápoles was a palace of Versailles. It was his grand work and representation of his power.
He literally had more money than he knew what to do with. He built this huge estate for himself. He would import exotic animals from Africa. In fact, I think there's a significant hippopotamus herd in Colombia that still survives because of Pablo. He spent his money like a kid who won the lottery.
Escobar hosts numerous extravagant parties at the estate.
He loved to have a good time. He was an entertaining person, I think, to hang around if you were on his good side.
Please, it was a mistake. Please, I'm sorry. Patron, por favor. Please, please.
If anyone crossed Pablo Escobar, no matter how slight the offense, the outcome was usually gruesome.
No one steals even 1 peso from me. No one.
Though in some people's eyes he appears to be a cold-blooded monster, Pablo Escobar shows a different side to the downtrodden of Colombia.
There was a segment of society that saw him as this dashing benefactor who helped the poor and stood up to American influences.
He used some of the enormous fortune that he made to effectively buy the support of people from Medellin, his home city.
He built himself up by building large numbers of housing in Medellin for the poor.
He had the feeling that he himself could be the Messiah, helping the poor and rescuing them from the type of existence that they were condemned to live, and that is why he claimed to be a sort of Robin Hood.
Much like he does to the poor, Escobar shows a softer side to those closest to him.
According to his son, Juan Pablo, Pablo Escobar would often sing his children to sleep.
I
haven't seen you in a month.
I've been busy with business. In fact, I've got to go meet some of them tonight.
What about us?
You're the loves of my life.
The complexities of a human being that can be a doll in closed doors and a serial killer out. How can you be a nice person to your loved ones and then, commit crimes?
Being one of the richest and biggest drug lords in the world was obviously not enough for Pablo Escobar. So what did he do next? He went into politics.
He wanted to be the president of Colombia. In addition to being the richest man in Colombia and one of the richest in the world, he wanted to rule. He wanted to be the boss.
In 1982, at the age of 33, Escobar is elected as an alternate member of Congress,
which gives him diplomatic immunity or arrest immunity under their laws. This is like having John Gotti run for Congress in Brooklyn and get elected.
But Escobar's political career doesn't last long after he is called out by the Colombian Minister of Justice, Rodrigo Lara Bonilla.
Lara Bonilla ended up denouncing that he indeed was a drug trafficker and uncovered him or unmasked him publicly.
As a result, Pablo Escobar resigns from the Colombian Congress in 1983.
Pablo was, I think, insulted by the way he was treated.
Because of Lara Bonilla's denunciation and the consequence that was his expulsion from Parliament, he ended up targeting Lara Bonilla.
Escobar places a price on Minister of Justice Bonilla's head for speaking out against him and sends his army of hitmen, known as sicarios, after him. To keep the minister safe, the United States Embassy in Colombia offers him a bulletproof vest as an extra measure of protection.
When you walk out of that door, make sure you're wearing this at all times. For your safety, please.
Minister Bonilla disregards the bulletproof vest, and his decision not to wear it will prove to be fateful.
Ironically, the bulletproof vest given to Lara Bonilla was found next to his dead body.
This assassination reveals that nothing or no one will stand in the way of Pablo Escobar.
I think he himself felt that not even the government had the right to go after him, so he was an egomaniac.
Escobar's fortune continues to spike. By now, his income is an estimated $420 million per week.
Pablo's making so much money that anything that he wants to buy, he can afford. When you exhaust the potential for fancy cars and motorcycles and yachts and your hacienda, you start spending money to buy people.
The people Pablo attempts to buy are high-ranking members of the Colombian government. Attorneys for Escobar are used to make the offers.
Tell your boss that I don't take bribes from narcos.
Perhaps this might change your mind. Your children look very happy playing at school. Shame if something ever happened to such a beautiful family.
Pablo began to corrupt the entire country of Colombia, buying the judiciary. And as the state began to push back against him, his methods became increasingly cruel and increasingly violent.
In 1985, Escobar teams up with guerrilla group M19 to wage a full-blown war against the Colombian government that seeks to bring him to justice for his drug crimes.
1 million, as we agreed. There will be a bonus if you can make the files in the basement of the Palace of Justice disappear.
On Escobar's orders, M19 lays siege to the Colombian Palace of Justice, where court records are kept that could potentially lead to his extradition.
They wanted to disappear documents that were related to activities they were conducting. There were, at the time, members of the M19 guerrilla inside of the palace, and people were hiding underneath desks. Not only was intense crossfire during 2 consecutive days and nights, but there was also a major fire. An uncle of mine was an auxiliary justice in one of the high courts, and many people died, including my uncle.
Kill them! Mátenlos!
By the time it was all over, dozens of M19 members and hostages were dead. The criminal case files against narcos like Pablo's had been torched, and much of the building was destroyed by fire and explosives.
Well, the message was pretty clear, wasn't it? If you're gonna push me around, Mr. Supreme Court, we'll attack the Supreme Court and kill you judges. How do you like that?
Pablo Escobar continues his war against the Colombian government and anyone who tries to take down his drug empire. But when his terror kills U.S. citizens, he will become one of the most wanted fugitives in the world.
Parents, we need magic too. So can we relax on a Disney cruise? Oh yes. And fine dine extra finely. double yes. Parents, you won't believe what a family vacation can be.
Wow, those are sweet.
Let's get a closer look. Ow! You all right?
I've never seen anything so beautiful.
I always forget about the glass.
Right now, lease a new Tacoma Double Cab SR5 for just $269 a month. Or get 2.99% for 72 months on Tundra. Toyota, let's go places.
She loves it hot, he loves it freezing. 72% of couples disagree on bedroom temperature. Meet the Pod by 8 Sleep, a smart sleep system for any bed that seamlessly fits your frame and your mattress. 2 profiles, 2 temperatures, and autopilot adjusts both sides. It tracks your sleep and delivers a daily fitness score. The Pod by 8 Sleep, designed for deep sleep, personalized to you.
5:10 a.m. Rain's in the way out. Coffee that smells like yesterday's. Drive an hour. Cut for 10. Choker setter. Yarder man. Chaser. Sunday. Back in the timber. Just without the saw. Kuyu. For the work between hunts.
Could you please submit your expenses today?
You could keep reminding your coworkers to submit their expenses. Or you could let Ramp do it. Never chase a receipt again. Ramp. Love finance.
Got the need for speed? No problem! At Tasty Trade, you can turn smart ideas into real trades with just a few clicks. Wow, that's fast. Tasty Trade, make your move.
Let's go on a new adventure, hand in hand, on a Disney cruise.
This program contains graphic violence and sexual situations. Viewer discretion is advised. By the late 1980s, Pablo Escobar runs a drug cartel that brings in millions of dollars a day. Members of the Colombian government who've stood against Escobar have met grisly ends.
Escobar waged a war against the Colombian government, and unfortunately, many lives were lost.
Escobar's driving force behind buying those in power and killing the ones who won't take his bribes is to avoid extradition to a harsher justice system.
One of the big weapons that the United States had in that effort was extradition, because Pablo could buy the government of Colombia and police in Colombia, but he couldn't buy the United States penal system or the Justice Department. So if he were extradited, his punishment would be real, and he would serve real time and maybe for life or for a long prison sentence.
He had to get out of the line of fire of extradition in case some president had the nerve to go and say, we're extraditing you under the indictments.
One of Pablo's most famous sayings was, "I would rather have a grave in Colombia than a jail cell in the US."
As a promising presidential candidate, Luis Carlos Galan makes his way into the spotlight. Escobar's worst fears may soon become reality.
Along comes Galan, he's running for president. And he says, yes, by God, they are bad guys, and we're gonna do something about them. And when I get elected, we're gonna extradite these people. We're not gonna put up with this anymore. We're a sovereign nation, and we're not gonna be intimidated by criminals.
But no man stands in the way of Pablo Escobar. On August 18th, 1989, Colombia is shocked when Galan is assassinated by Escobar's sicarios during a campaign rally.
Galan's death was just like unfathomable for all of us.
The assassination of Galan was like the assassination of a dream.
Someone had to stand up in front of Pablo Escobar. And so came Cesar Gaviria.
Galan's debate chief, Cesar Gaviria, is named as his political successor.
As he campaigned, he went from town to town in commercial planes,
Knowing Gaviria's travel plans, Pablo Escobar hatches a plot to take out his latest political foe.
So, there's a recording device in there? Yes. Your only job is to flip the switch on the top once you are in the air. I have an interest in the person who's booked the seat next to yours. If they say anything, I want it recorded. Sounds easy enough. Be on time. Don't miss that flight. Yes, sir.
This was all a ruse by Pablo Escobar. The briefcase didn't contain a recording device, it contained a bomb. And that bomb was set to go off when the plane hit a certain altitude. But the young man he hired was in the dark about the whole thing.
The bomb detonates in midair, killing all 107 innocent passengers on board.
There's no limit. This guy is unstoppable.
Life was of no consequence. The power to kill and the generation of fear is what made Escobar so successful. If you cross me and you get on an airplane, I'll blow it up and kill people. Now, how do you like that?
In an ironic twist, the bomb's target, Colombian presidential candidate Cesar Gaviria, isn't on the plane due to a last-minute change in plans. He wins the election and becomes president of Colombia in 1990. He's determined to bring Escobar down, and due to the airline bombing, he's not alone.
There were 2 Americans on the flight that Pablo Escobar's bomb took down. And to U.S. officials, that meant that Escobar was a clear and present danger. And he was also a military target.
It had been the policy of President George H.W. Bush to really clamp down on these big drug dealers in South America, and Pablo Escobar was the biggest of them all.
The rules have changed, and for the drug kingpins, the death penalty.
Now, with assistance from the United States, the new Colombian government makes it a priority to hunt down Pablo Escobar.
When Cesar Gaviria became president and made efforts to begin cracking down on cocaine traffickers in earnest, it meant he was having to deal with a corrupted army and national police who had spent years taking payoffs. So he created a blockade de búsqueda, a search block.
The so-called search block began to track down Pablo Escobar. But on one of their searches, they found his cousin, Gustavo.
By August 11th, 1990, Pablo Escobar's right-hand man and cousin, Gustavo Gaviria, is dead. Escobar responds to the government's pursuit with a wave of bombings.
Medellin was in a permanent state of alert. Not just Medellin, but the whole country. In the city, somehow we even got used to knowing when we heard an explosion. We already knew if it was a bomb or if it was a light transformer.
I had to live firsthand with narco-terrorism. And walking down the sidewalks of Bogota at the time was dangerous, and I was like always afraid that there was going to be a car bomb, and my family kept on telling me, watch out, don't go out.
As the search block hunts for Pablo, his sicarios target the group's members.
Escobar put a bounty on policemen, and so street thugs would kill them and then take the obituary of those cops to Escobar, and he'd pay them.
Escobar finds yet another way to strike back at the government.
Pablo certainly set a template for using kidnappings of very prominent people as a way to obtain political leverage. Because a terrorist is not a terrorist if no one covers him. And when he's threatening and has people that Colombians care about, like politicians, news directors, then he had a live stream of constant chaos being created by him. We also had the massive attacks he did on populations So many people died, and all of them collateral damage for what? Every one of Pablo's violent demonstrations were a self-serving campaign to not be extradited, and nothing would stand in his way.
Escobar's reach is long due to the army of paid killers available at his beck and call.
Pablo's goons had colorful nicknames like Smurf and Popeye, but there was nothing funny about the violence that they carried out.
At times, even Escobar's sicarios end up on the receiving end of violence.
Pablo was growing increasingly paranoid that there was a mole within his organization. So what he'd do is have his henchmen torture anyone who he thought might be trouble.
We'll be together soon, Victoria. I promise.
American forces in Colombia eavesdropped on a call from Pablo to his wife, Victoria. And in the background, you could hear the distinct sounds of a man being tortured.
Pablo Escobar's war against the Colombian government has left thousands of dead bodies in its wake. But there's only one way to stop the carnage: for politicians to make a deal with the devil.
Summer's here. You can celebrate anything, like buying your first car. Yes! Cute.
Summer's here, and with 14 models starting under $40,000 MSRP, there's sure to be a vehicle for every budget. Toyota, let's go places.
Wow, those are sweet.
Let's get a closer look. Ow! You all right?
I've never seen anything so beautiful.
I always forget about the glass.
Right now, lease a new Tacoma Double Cab SR5 for just $269 a month, or get 2.99% for 72 months on Tundra. Toyota, let's go places.
Details make magic. So on a Disney cruise, each morning you get to venture out into the timeless charm of Europe. And each evening, return to even more enchantment on board.
Summer's here. Who's ready for camp in a new Toyota? The call was coming from inside the Tacoma.
Summer's here, and with 14 models starting under $40,000 MSRP, there's sure to be a vehicle for every budget. Toyota, let's go places.
In 1991, so-called King of Cocaine Pablo Escobar is on the run from the Colombian government he's waged war upon. The acts of violence he and his sicarios have committed have left the population shaken. Escobar's actions take a toll on more than just the country of Colombia.
Papi. What is it, son?
I'm sick and tired of all the violence, Papi. Many people have died.
innocent people. Violence isn't the answer to your problems. It just makes things worse.
Listen to your son. Pablo, you need to put an end to this. Please.
Please, Papi.
This is a war. And people die in wars.
What we experienced as Colombians was a very consistent strategy to terrorize the population to get the government to negotiate and bend.
After years of fighting in which thousands of lives have been lost, Pablo Escobar and the government reach a compromise.
The deal was, if Pablo Escobar would be allowed to build his own prison, and if he would be guaranteed that he couldn't be extradited to the US, that he would stop his war against the Colombian government. They even changed the Constitution to prevent the extradition of someone like Pablo.
Well, the compromise that President Gaviria's government struck with Pablo strikes us as being outrageous. But when he began offering to make a deal with the government and the violence would end, that was a very attractive deal, which ultimately the government of Colombia took.
As part of Pablo's deal, no police or military forces are allowed near the property. Additionally, the local government, which Escobar essentially controls, is also allowed to hire all of the prison guards.
The prison that became known as the Cathedral was located on the high mountains where he had a clear view of the area. He had a privileged view where he could see everything that was happening around him. And little by little, he was turning it into his hotel.
Make no mistake, this was a prison in name only. It was more like a resort, and people called it Hotel Escobar or Club Medellin. It had a private chef, state-of-the-art facilities, and they even trucked in prostitutes for it. But most importantly, it was a place where he could continue to conduct his drug smuggling business.
When you have your own guards, hot and cold running women, unlimited booze and food, and claim that you're in prison, it was a nightclub.
Escobar keeps his family in a home nearby, and they make frequent trips to his private prison to visit him.
By this point, Pablo and his wife Victoria had 2 children, their son, Juan Pablo, and their daughter, Manuela.
Though he's supposed to be incarcerated, Pablo Escobar is occasionally seen outside the walls of his prison.
It was the kind of prison where he could go into the city and attend soccer matches and go out to dinner with his family. It was a very interesting incarceration.
Inside the walls of the prison, it's business as usual for Escobar.
The government got news that he was still committing crimes and directing a criminal organization from outside, and that he had even killed people inside of the prison. Some of his partners in crime had disagreements with him over the payment of portions of their profits to him, and he ended up brutally murdering them and actually dismembering and burning them, apparently.
When the government gets word of Escobar's behavior, it makes moves to place him in a proper prison. But thanks to his range of informants throughout Medellin, Pablo is always 2 steps ahead. 2 government officials are sent to the prison to give Escobar some devastating news.
As I'm sure you've heard, you're going to be transferred.
You and the government have betrayed me, Vice Minister. I had an agreement, and now you, your president, are breaking that agreement. You're going to turn me over to the Americans, aren't you?
Let's kill this bastard.
Oh, wait. Our Constitution forbids extradition. We are not giving you to the Americans.
And you're trying to kill me?
No.
Escobar takes the 2 officials hostage. The government launches a raid to rescue them, and while Pablo's men engage in a firefight with the military, he uses the chaos to his advantage.
Pablo simply, had a well-oiled escape route and vanished.
One of the most wanted criminals in the world was now on the loose again.
Now a man on the run, Escobar retreats to a safe house.
We were so worried. I thought you might have gotten captured, Papi.
I'll never let those bastards take me alive.
Over the next few months, Escobar moves to a series of hideouts and reunites with his family when he can.
Pablo was on the run, but his family wasn't. So when they came to visit him, he would have them blindfolded, so if they ever got questioned or captured, they couldn't tell where he was.
Not only are Colombian and American forces on the hunt for Escobar, but so is a rogue search squad called Los Pepes.
Los Pepes stood for People Persecuted by Pablo Escobar. And it's rumored that they were made up and financed by members of the Colombian armed forces, as well as rival drug cartels.
They basically were a death squad. What they would do is not target Pablo alone, but anyone in his family, including his extended family, anyone who worked for him, including lawyers and accountants and the sort of white-collar superstructure of Pablo's empire.
By killing attorneys and others who've done business with Escobar, Los Pepes lets Pablo know that no one in his circle is safe. Fearful that his family might become targets, Escobar makes plans for his children to flee to Miami in early 1993. Knowing they are the only way to locate Pablo, American forces in Colombia suggest a plan.
We were looking at the vulnerability of locating him, that perhaps his concern for his family would be a weakness.
Problem is, they're allowed to leave. We lose our only link to finding Pablo.
How do we stop them from leaving?
Do they have visas?
The U.S. rejects the Escobar children's existing visas on the grounds that they are under the age of 18. The children can obtain new visas, but only if Pablo and his wife come to the U.S. Embassy to apply for them in person. Unwilling to come out of hiding, a new plan is devised for the family months later.
Pablo's wife and kids flew to Frankfurt, Germany, but they were denied entrance, and Pablo was livid.
You tell the president if he does not allow my family entry into Germany, I will not only set off bombs all over Colombia, but I will also bomb the German embassy. And I'll kill every German in this country.
Despite Pablo's threats, his wife and children are sent back to Colombia. Pablo Escobar's empire is crumbling, and one ultimately fatal mistake will soon prove to be the king of cocaine's downfall. December 1993. As one of the most wanted men in the world, Colombian drug lord Pablo Escobar is in hiding. His life as a fugitive is a far cry from the one he enjoyed years earlier.
Pablo Escobar used to be guarded by a whole army of sicarios, but by this point they were either dead or in prison, so he was guarded by just one man who went by the name Limon.
Pablo's wife and children are sequestered in Bogota and under the protection of the country's attorney general. Their phone calls are heavily monitored by the government in the hopes that they could lead to Escobar. Son Juan Pablo stays in close contact with his father via phone, and they keep their calls short so they can't be traced.
Tell the journalist that contacted you that I'll answer his questions in writing when I can. How's your little sister?
Members of the search bloc, the Colombian force hunting Escobar, are monitoring the phone calls of Pablo's son the day his father stays on the phone too long.
We've located Escobar. Go!
I love you.
He stayed on the phone too long.
The search block cruising the streets of Medellin, picking up this telephone call, were able to figure out where he was calling from.
With Escobar's location pinpointed, Colombian forces stage a raid on the safe house.
He ran up the stairs, and they ran up after him, and then he went out a window and got on the roof.
Pablo and his gunmen shot back at the search block.
Bodyguard Limon is engulfed in a hail of bullets and is killed. Now, Pablo Escobar must try to make his escape alone.
While fleeing across the rooftops, Pablo was shot twice, and those shots knocked him down. It was the third shot that took Pablo Escobar down for good. Nobody knows exactly who fired it. Some people say that it came from Colombian forces, while others have suggested that maybe an American sniper shot him. But Pablo Escobar's brother and son both believe that he shot himself because he'd always said he would rather be dead than captured. Whoever was responsible, that shot ended Pablo Escobar's life.
Pablo Escobar is dead! Viva Colombia!
Viva Colombia!
Viva Colombia!
Viva Colombia!
Colombian soldiers quickly pose for an infamous photo with Pablo Escobar's corpse.
It sort of reminded me like a deer hunt, you know? You show the deer with a 6-horn buck that I just shot.
As the American general who was involved in the hunting down of Pablo Escobar said to me, I keep that picture on my wall to remind me that no matter how rich you get in this life, you can still be too big for your britches.
People around the world, and those at home in Colombia, breathe a sigh of relief as one of the world's most dangerous criminals is finally taken down for good.
I felt relief for the people of Colombia in general. It wasn't so much a personal feeling, it was the feeling of someone who, like the rest of Colombians, was exhausted by the intense violence, nasty violence that he had been responsible for.
After his death, Escobar's wife and 2 children leave Colombia for a new life in Argentina, where they changed their names. In 1999, wife Victoria and son Juan Pablo are arrested on charges of money laundering. They spend several months in jail before being released due to insufficient evidence. In 2014, Escobar's son, Juan Pablo, writes a book denouncing his father's horrific violence.
Pablo Escobar's son, Juan Pablo, reached out to the children of 2 of the politicians who his father had killed. He asked for their forgiveness, and they all appeared on a documentary to prove that the cycle of violence could be broken.
Today, years after Escobar's death, Colombia is seemingly safer, and its murder rate has dropped. However, it still must contend with the legacy Pablo left behind.
We were all Pablo's victims. I mean, in Colombia, everyone knows of somebody or has somebody who has lost somebody to a tragic event. It is still a country that is haunted by the ghost of the past.
The name Pablo Escobar is a name that we still know today because his life was so fascinating. How could somebody so rich and so successful be so ruthless? Whether or not you knew his name, whether or not you knew what he looked like, his actions affected everybody you know. He became rich, yes, he became famous, but he also died violently. And he also had the blood of thousands and thousands of people on his hands. So that's why murder made him famous. That's why we still talk about him to this day. And that's why the name Pablo Escobar is probably not going to be forgotten anytime soon.